The Scourge Virus, the single most terrifying weapon in the Invincible comics. We're breaking down its complete history and the effect it had on the Viltrumite body. We're also going to analyze the damage it did to the Viltrum Empire and the long-term evolutionary consequences it forced upon the species. Now first we need to establish the physiological baseline of a standard Viltrumite. You cannot understand how a weapon breaks a machine without first understanding how the machine operates. You see, the Viltrumites are an apex predator species, a race of super strong, near invincible beings who appear human but possess physical capabilities that outright defy standard biology. It allows for unassisted flight, extreme temperature resistance, allowing them to fly through cores of stars, and a healing factor capable of restoring massive trauma in a matter of days. The Viltrumites are technically not immortal, but their aging process doesn't follow a linear human path. Rather, it operates on a curve of exponential decay. As a Viltrumite ages, their rate of physical degradation approaches zero, meaning their aging process slows down once they hit maturity. Viltrumite DNA is also highly aggressive and dominant. When a Viltrumite breeds with another species, their genetic material rapidly overwrites the host species' DNA. This creates a biological profile of a species that cannot be defeated through conventional means. They are the ultimate unstoppable force. During the early days of their expansion, the Empire was ruled by Emperor Argall. Argall is described as one of the wisest yet most tyrannical leaders of the Viltrumite Empire, enforcing a harsh, brutal regime that crushed civilizations solely to expand the Viltrum's galactic footprint. For context, the Viltrumites operate on a strict, unyielding, might makes right philosophy. Compassion is not just a social taboo, it's viewed as a genetic defect that needed to be purged from the gene pool. However, this ruthless doctrine eventually dissuaded one of their own top-tier intellects. Thaedus, a prominent Viltrumite thinker and the individual who would later be known across the cosmos as the Great Betrayer, recognized the horrific nature of the Empire's tyranny. He saw his people's violence for exactly what it was, an unsustainable horrific tyranny that crushed innocent civilians just to feed Viltrum's endless appetite for power. So driven by an ideological break from his people, Thaedus took drastic action. He straight up assassinated Emperor Argall. He killed the supreme ruler of a warrior race. Thaedus hoped that killing the leadership would force the Viltrumites to recognize the error of their ways, prompting a pivot towards a more peaceful coexistence within the wider galaxy. Unfortunately, this gamble failed spectacularly. Instead of reforming, the Viltrum Empire doubled down on its fascist, violent ideologies. The power vacuum left by Argall's death did not lead to enlightenment. It led to the Great Purge, where Viltrumites began killing each other to ensure only the strongest remain to lead. The Viltrumites became more dangerous than ever before. Having said that, Thaedus realized that his people were fundamentally incapable of reforming. Fleeing Viltrum, he took refuge in the wider galaxy and founded the Coalition of Planets, an alliance of various alien species including the Eunopians and the Geldarians. Now operating as the primary leader and the lead designer of the Coalition's most secretive weapon division, Thaedus reluctantly concluded that the only way to stop the Viltrum Empire was total extermination. Utilizing his own biological material, the pure-blooded Viltrumite DNA of the Great Betrayer himself, Thaedus engineered an airborne biological weapon specifically tailored to target, compromise, and dismantle the body of his own species. He weaponized his own blood to extinguish his own people. This incredibly dark, scientific, brilliant weapon was the Scourge Virus, making its primary comic debut in Invincible issue 66. It was a weapon designed to turn their greatest weapon, their cellular density, against them. The initial deployment of the Scourge Virus against the planet Viltrum was a masterclass in stealth biological warfare. Thaedus and the Coalition of Planets developed the virus and placed it inside specially designed containment pods. These pods were then embedded deep within the rocky exterior of a large asteroid directed on a trajectory towards the Viltrum planet. As it entered the planet's atmosphere, the extreme friction burned away the outer rock layer, effectively and quietly scattering the hidden pods across the planet. Upon impact, the pods breached, releasing the virus in the form of a highly contagious green mist. The physiological effects of Strain 1 were immediate, fast-acting, and absolutely terrifying. The virus was designed to bypass the Viltromites' hardened exterior by attacking the immune system on a cellular level. Infected individuals rapidly presented severe respiratory distress, violently coughing fits, and extreme hemorrhaging. The hallmark visual of the virus is thick blood heavily leaking from the victim's eyes, nose, and mouth before they inevitably collapse. Most importantly, the virus systematically deactivated their invulnerability and super strength, leaving the survivors incredibly weakened. To truly understand the scale of this attack, we have to look at the numbers. Compare this subject's capabilities to a well-known baseline, the Black Death on Earth, which wiped out massive swaths of Europe's population between 1346 and 1353, and which Robert Kirkman himself has stated is the real-world inspiration for the Scourge Virus. Now, while the Black Death was devastating, of course, humanity survived through natural immunity, geographical isolation, and the limitations of 14th century travel. The Scourge Virus, however, achieved a reported 99.9% mortality rate against a species whose baseline immune system can normally survive conditions that would instantly vaporize human biology. The virus infected almost the entirety of the Viltrumite population, leaving fewer than 50 pure-blooded individuals alive in the entire galaxy. This was a mass-level extinction event. The few survivors were forced to abandon their homeworld and wander the stars, hiding their diminished numbers through propaganda and the Viltrumite expansion program, which was secretly just a desperate attempt to interbreed and repopulate. Now, while the remnants of the Viltrum Empire spent centuries recovering, interbreeding, and plotting their slow resurgence, Thaedus did not remain idle. Unaware of just how devastating the first version of the virus had been, believing that the Viltrumites still possessed significant numbers due to their successful propaganda campaign, the Coalition's lead designer continued his biological engineering. Thaedus successfully developed an improved, highly aggressive iteration, Strain 2 of the Scourge Virus, which officially debuts in Invincible issue number 67. This enhanced version was engineered to bypass any natural immunities that the surviving Viltrumites might have developed over the centuries since the first outbreak. Thaedus viewed it as the ultimate failsafe, a doomsday weapon to be used only as the absolute last resort. The existence of this new strain of the virus introduces a massive ethical conflict in the narrative. The virus is eventually entrusted to Alan the Alien, who forms a radical, highly controversial plan with Mark's half-brother, Oliver. Because a significant contingent of Viltrumites had taken up residence on Earth, Alan and Oliver deduces that releasing the new strain directly on the planet would guarantee the eradication of the remaining Viltrumite threat. But there's also a chance that humans would also be affected by it, because they're so close in genetic makeup to the Viltrumites. Oliver argues that sacrificing the human population of the planet is a necessary exchange to save the entire universe from Viltrumite tyranny. This cold, utilitarian viewpoint stands in direct opposition to Mark's philosophy of protecting the Earth at all cost, leading to a confrontation between them. During this battle, Mark attempts to intercept Oliver and secure the vial containing the modified Scourge Virus, until the vial is accidentally compromised, spraying the deadly pathogen directly into Mark's face at point-blank range. Initially, Mark believes that he's unaffected. He catches his breath, wonders out loud if the virus even affects hybrids. However, within moments, the reality sets in. Blood begins to seep from his eyes and nose. Mark then loses the ability to fly. He then passes out and begins to fall from the sky. As Mark's condition continues to get worse, he slips into a deep coma. Because human medical science is entirely unequipped to handle a weaponized alien pathogen, Mark is then sent to the only location capable of treating him, a Viltrumite warship stationed on the moon. Eve breaks down, telling him that she cannot do this without him. The Viltrumite doctors offer absolutely no comfort, of course, coldly informing her that the fever has entirely taking over his entire system, and physically removing her from the room because she's in the way of their test. The presence of Mark on the warship creates a lot of tension. Cecil questions Thrag's motives, wondering why Thrag is allowing Mark to be treated. Thrag firmly states that human science is useless here, and that Viltrumite medical expertise is Mark's only chance at survival. Though while Viltrumite science stalls, Alan the alien executes a desperate, highly legal contingency plan, following prior instructions from Mark himself to find someone if things ever go wrong. Alan seeks out the assistance of one of Earth's most dangerous entities, Dinosaurus. Dinosaurus is the alter ego of a young man named David Anders. Dinosaurus possesses a level of superhuman intelligence that rivals the greatest minds in the galaxy. However, he's also a radical environmental terrorist who previously planted bombs that successfully turned the entire city of Las Vegas into a sheet of glass to solve an energy crisis. Alan breaks into Dinosaurus' secret base, resulting in a brief physical match between them before they squash the feud, and he explains what is happening. Despite their differences, Alan escorts him to the Viltrumite warship. The arrival of Dinosaurus on the moon sparks immediate conflict. He convinces both the Guardians and the Grand Regent that his mythology is the only viable solution to save Mark. Thrag, recognizing his genius, clears the laboratory, effectively handing the fate of the Viltrumite prince over to an Earth-based eco-terrorist. Though despite Dinosaurus' medical intervention, the reason Mark survives the virus is linked to his genetic heritage. During the medical procedures on the warship, Thrag analyzes Mark's DNA and uncovers a secret that alters the entire foundation of the cosmos. Thrag finds out that Mark, Oliver, and Nolan are direct descendants of Emperor Argall. Following the assassination by Thaedus centuries prior, his heirs were hidden away to protect them from the ensuing power vacuum and the Great Purge. Nolan, of course, was entirely unaware of his royal lineage, having been raised as a standard citizen and soldier of the Empire. The Royal Bloodline provides a distinct biological advantage. The markers of Argall's lineage enhance the subject's resistance to certain biological damage. So while Strain 2 was designed to bypass standard Viltrumite immunity, the Royal Bloodline was way more advanced. So Mark's recovery process was brutal. He spent weeks in a highly vulnerable state, completely stripped of his powers. Mark's body eventually purged the enhanced virus. When Mark finally emerged from his coma and his powers returned, the biological stress test of fighting off the Scourge Virus resulted in a massive adaptation. He returned way faster, stronger, and more durable than he was prior to the infection. This implies that the virus accidentally gave him the exact power spike he needed to eventually stand toe-to-toe with Thrag, which reminds me of a certain race. With that said, that's the entire history of the Scourge Virus. If you guys want more videos just like this one, let me know in the comments, and also drop a like on this one. Also, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.